Okay. We went to the fan meet. We got a bunch of players and even Tab Ramos to say it. So it's like we want to have a big collection. Yeah.
Absolutely. You ready?
On your go.
Do I need a countdown here?
No, you're whenever
good.
you're ready.
I'm Glenn Davis. You're listening to Keeping Tabs.
Yo, what is up? What's going on? It's your boy Colin with Keeping Tabs. And today we're back after 5 long games to begin the season of 2025. We are back for a podcast, and oh boy, has a lot happened. As you all know, it's the elephant in the room. We are winless in 5 games. We are off to the worst start in team history, and things are not looking great, but we're keeping the vibes high. We're trying to, at least. That's all we can do, right? That's all we can do. Especially when the FO just seems like they don't know what's going on. It makes fans feel like that they don't know what's going on either. And what I mean by that is, letting go of guys like Mikael, Ache, and Coco Carrasquilla without really getting replacements for them before the season has started. You could say Jack McGlynn has replaced Hector Herrera, but can you really say that? He hasn't helped us win any games. He has 1 assist on the season. He's directly part of giving up a goal and indirectly part of giving up multiple other goals based off, honestly, just bad defending and not great defending, and he is playing as a defensive-minded midfielder. I wouldn't say Jack McGlynn has been totally a 6 per se. Artur is that last man back type of player for us, as always. And Artur is not free from blame either these first 5 games. I really expected that taking over the armband and donning that new role, that new responsibility, would really propel him and he could step up. And I've seen this take float around Twitter, or X if you want to call it X, and Reddit and Discord and this and that. I've seen this take that Artur was really only good because he had a midfielder like Hector Herrera beside him, and I can't help but see that being true. And maybe it's the mindset of that Artur feels like he has to try harder because he has some young guns that are next to him, or he has a 35-year-old Nicolas Lodero next to him, and that's totally fair too. Either way, how it's been running, I've not been super pleased or impressed with the way that Artur has defended, and that was his biggest positive, is that he was that last man back sweeper-esque type CDM Busquets type player that could really play all sides of the ball, and it seems like he's trying way too hard to be on this side of the field or that side of the field, and is really missing those important areas where he's usually pops up in, at least in 2023 and 2024. That's not to say that Archer's been the worst player or that he's even the biggest problem, because there's a lot of problems. And I wouldn't even say defense is our biggest problem. We've only scored 3 goals out of the year. That's one of the lowest in MLS. We're only part of a very, very small group of teams, of 6 teams, that have yet to win a game. I'm sorry, but 6 games into the season without winning a game is disastrous. And that falls on everybody. And at this point, it falls on the players too. You have to look at the mentality. And, whenever I see the team and the Dynamo Twitter account and players celebrating a tie in Seattle, which, yes, we'll get to that. It was an okay result. But given the context of the situation that we haven't won a game all season, I don't want to see you celebrating a draw. We have 2 points out of 5 games. We sit bottom of the West, right? We don't look like we're performing that well, and we're not scoring goals. I'd be fine, I guess, with like a 3-3 draw against Seattle in Seattle, I suppose. But let's be honest, guys. I mean, we're not going to celebrate a 0-0 Borefest against Seattle. Blake Gillingham, is that his name? Let me look that up. I believe it's Blake Gillingham. I need to actually research this guy. Blake Gillingham. Yeah. He could definitely be our next keeper. And we'll get more into that, but whenever a goalkeeper comes in like that and has one of the games of his lives, the worst thing you can do is to not start him. You run this hot train. You run it until it's burnt out or it keeps growing stronger. And I'm not saying that we don't need another keeper, because obviously Andrew Tarbell, who was our starter at the beginning of the season, is out. And then Jimmy Maurer, who was his backup, who, by the way, I was very impressed with, he is out for at least a few weeks. So Blake Gillingham for the near future is our goalkeeper. And yes, we do need to sign a player, a veteran, a domestic keeper around MLS that can step up if they need to. But I say we ride this Blake Gillingham train. He's only 22. He has obviously a ton of potential. And one thing I really liked about him was his kicks. He seemed to be very accurate with his kicks, which is something Tarbell definitely wasn't. Mara was a little better with distribution, but we only saw so little from him that it's hard to really say. But I was pretty impressed with Blake Gillingham. He looks like he could possibly be an exciting prospect, but it's way too early to tell. We'll learn a lot more after this game against Portland in Portland. That's going to be a big tell on where we stand as players that could be something like Femi Awodosu, Blake Gillingham, even, McGlynn. That's going to be a big game for him. But let's kick off the podcast and begin talking about Seattle. So I think we all knew going into this game that we were not going to win. We'd never won in Seattle before. We'd only tied a handful of times. And I don't know if this stat is true. I saw it on X and I was too lazy to look it up, and I'm still too lazy to look it up now. I'm just going to believe it. And if it's wrong, then I look dumb, okay? But we'll just go with it. So on X, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Noodle Tiempo. So I think it was either OSG or Felipe. And if it's not you, then I'm sorry. But it was some Twitter account. And they said that we have only scored 3 goals. Yes, 3 goals all time in Seattle when playing against Seattle. That is absolutely horrendous. So knowing that, if that was true, we had absolutely no chance to win this game. So yes, a draw against Seattle in Seattle is an okay result, I guess, but it's really not when you think about it. We don't have a win all season. The players got to step up. The coach has to take some responsibility and accountability at some point. And as many positives as I could say about Ben Olsen, he is not one to admit when he's wrong or he can improve, okay? He has a system. He's going to run his system no matter what, regardless if it hurt us, right? Our system is to hold the ball, keep the ball, pass around the back, build up. That doesn't lead to very many goals. It hasn't since his arrival in 2023. And with missing critical players that could build out of the back, like Hector Herrera, Coco Carrasquilla, Mikael, etc., those players gone, we've given up many goals because we can't build out of the back with the players that we have. The personnel we have right now is not built for Ben's system, not yet anyways. And Ben is not great at adaptability, and that's one of his biggest downfalls, and we're seeing it really, really exposed right now at the start of the season. Obviously, 5 games in, winless, possibly going on 6. I mean, Portland are a good team right now. They're a scary team. Seattle. Yeah, okay. One thing that really upset me was, and this part didn't upset me, but what the Dynamo haven't done is what upsets me. So Nicolas Lodeiro, before the match, got commended by Seattle because it was his first game back in Seattle since he left Seattle. Obviously, he has been there for many years, I believe 7 or 8, before he went to Orlando City. And honestly, Nicolas Lodeiro has to be one of the first players you think of when you think of Seattle Sounders. At least for me. I think of Jordan Morris, Nicolas Lodeiro, Stefan Frei, Brad Evans, players like that. But Nicolas Lodeiro is definitely at the top of my list. So that's great and all. In fact, as a club, I commend that from Seattle, especially commending a player that you're playing against that season. In your stadium, commending them is a massive, massive dub by Seattle. What makes me mad is that the Dynamo have never done that for a player. You know, you could think of players like Brad Smith, Brian Ching, De Rosario, legends of the club, DeMarcus Beasley. And never have we done anything like that. But namely players that went off and played at different clubs and then subsequently came back and played against the Dynamo in Houston. I think of guys like Brad Davis. We haven't done anything like that to commend them. And that's really sad. Because while we are a newish team, we are older than Seattle. And we definitely have legends of the club, like the ones I just mentioned. And the Dynamo are very bad about forgetting players when they leave the club. It seems like players that leave the club we never hear from again, except for Bonilla Garcia. He is one player that I can say the Dynamo have done very well to kind of keep in our minds and keep in our spirits. And I miss the Honduras connection that Dynamo have had. When we had Romel Kyoto, Bonilla Garcia, Albert Elise, Machado? Was Machado Honduran? I'm not going to look that up because I'm too lazy, but I think he was Honduran also. Do not hate me if I'm wrong about that. But we're just going to go ahead and say he's Honduran. When we had all those guys playing together, we were Honduras FC, and I loved it. I'd love to see them in a World Cup, honestly. Hopefully and I don't know how this works with 3 countries hosting the World Cup, but obviously in 2026, when the USA, Canada, and Mexico, all teams from CONCACAF, host the World Cup, there will be teams from CONCACAF that make the World Cup that haven't. And I think teams like Jamaica, El Salvador, and Honduras could all be really cool teams to see on that world stage. So what do y'all think about the World Cup expanding to 64 teams or 30? I don't know even what the current number is at, but I know that they're expanding to allow more teams in. And honestly, I think that's a great idea. I know it's a money grab. I mean, it's all about money, right? It's a business. But I still do think that that is a good idea because it gets the community of that country involved. And there's a large El Salvador, just to name them, community in Houston. And we saw that whenever the Dynamo played a friendly against El Salvador, and the stadium was almost packed with El Salvador fans. Good on y'all. Good on them for showing up. I really commend that a lot. Back to Seattle. So going into this game, I did not have very high hopes. So ending the game with a draw was okay, I suppose. But it's still left me not happy, to put simply. But going in the match, I fully expected Sviatchenko to start. And honestly, he is a veteran presence missing from this back line. So whenever I saw he wasn't in the starting 11, my hopes dumped even further. Which was really weird because he started and went 45 minutes against El Salvador in a friendly that occurred a few days prior to that Seattle match. So because of that, I kind of expected for him to start, but he's been dealing with some injury since the start of the season that's been keeping him out of the 11. And obviously the thing we can do is not rush him back if he's not healthy, but he has been missed. You can see that pretty frankly. So our starting back line was Escobar, Bartlow, Awadesu, and Dorsey, and goalkeeper was obviously Jimmy Maurer, as Andrew Tarbell had gotten injured in our last match, and unfortunately posted on Instagram and confirmed to all of us that he tore his ACL, so he'll be out for the season. Andrew Tarbell's done. Not that he's been a great keeper or anything, but he probably was maybe better than Jimmy Maurer. I mean, to be honest, I kind of liked what I saw more from Jimmy Maurer, but I think, to be honest, Andrew Tarbell is better than Jimmy Maurer, let's be honest. But better than Blake Gillingham? Oh, no way. Blake Gillingham, could build a statue for him. He made some spectacular saves that, honestly, I don't think Steve Clark would have made. But back to the starting 11. Obviously, Jack McGlynn was with the United States, who surprisingly got called up. I don't think Jack McGlynn has done anything to deserve a U.S. men's national team call-up, let alone playing time in a critical knockout round, but he got playing time against Panama, and honestly, I thought he did really well with the minutes that he had. He subbed into the match about the 68th minute, and he was playing sort of the same role that we see him play at the Dynamo, kind of that deep-lying, not 6, but deep-lying 8 playmaker, connector passes type player. And he was doing really well to help unlock that low block that we saw Panama have up until the very last minute when they surprisingly scored against the U.S. men's national team, which thankfully was nothing on Jack McGlynn's fault. But I thought he did really well. He's obviously not good enough to be part of the final roster right now. Obviously, he replaced Johnny Cardoso, the original player that was in that final roster. He had to leave camp due to an injury. So I think there's a chance that he raised his stock a little bit, but how much can you really raise your stock when you lose and when you're on the field when you get a goal scored on you against Panama to knock you out of the Nations League? That doesn't raise your stock a lot, to be fair, but I thought he did okay. So no Jack McGlynn, so we saw Nicolas Lodeiro start, and we saw Junior Urso start. And that was a name I had forgotten the way that he gets signed. And I knew him back at Orlando City, and I thought, from what I know about Eastern Conference teams, which it's not a lot, I've always held him in very high regards. But I had no idea how old he was. I mean, the man's almost 37, for Christ's sake. I had no idea how old Junior Urso was. And that kind of made me not think of him that highly, I suppose. That kind of made me put him down the depth chart and not really give him a chance. But he proved me wrong in the best way possible against Seattle. He was our best player. He was our MVP. I knew our MVP went to Blake Gillingham, who only played less than a half. I don't think that's really fair. I think Junior Urso was our MVP. He was everywhere. He was better than Arthur. He was better than Arthur has been all year. He put in a fantastic performance that I think I'm going to go with the same mindset as Blake Gillingham, where I'm not going to want to take Junior Urso out of the starting 11, even when Jack McGlynn gets back. I think we put Nicolas Lodeiro to the bench. I don't think he's been that great. To be quite frank, I know he has a goal and all that, and I know how great of a player he was. He has not been that great to start the season, guys. And he was not that great against Seattle. It's not that he was bad or anything, but he just doesn't make stuff happen like he used to. So I honestly think we keep Junior Urso on the field and put Nicolas Lodeiro to the bench based off Seattle's performance. I think we run the hot train. And then up top, Aliyu on the bench again. That's a storyline that I'm keeping tabs on because Aliyu was this player that Ben Olsen seemed to never take out of the starting 11 last year, no matter how bad, no matter how many chances he squandered, no matter how many offsides he had, which, by the way, Aliyu had the most offsides in 2024 with 14. Yes, 14 offsides. And it seemed like we were never going to get over that hump of Aliyu in the starting 11. And it looks like he's out, but it's not like Kowalczyk has done really anything to earn the starting spot either. He doesn't have a goal or an assist to start the year. Our whole attack has been horrid. But yeah, we had Kowalczyk in that left wing role, Bassi in that right wing / midfield / false 9 role, and then Ponce up top. I think Ponce's done okay to start the season. He has a goal and assist. I think he's done okay. It's obvious that we're trying to use him as a hold-up striker, and that's so obviously painfully not his best strong suit. That's not what he's made for. He's not a big, burly guy that can keep the ball and hold off pressure to make a pass, but he's done okay in that role. Ben Olsen's going to play him in that role regardless of really how he's doing because that's Ben Olsen. He's stubborn for better or for worse. Ben is stubborn. So we're going to see Ponce in that hold-up play striker role. He's done okay. He did okay against Seattle. He had a few plays where he was able to trap the ball and then spray it out wide or pass it back and keep possession. And if he keeps progressing and keeps getting better at that, I can see our attack getting better. Because I do see Ben's vision with that, but it just hasn't really gone the way that I think Ben or any of us want it to go. Don't get me wrong, Ezequiel Ponce is certainly not playing like a $7.5 million striker, but he's no bum, right? We can see the talent. He's not really being played to his best of his abilities, but I think Ponce is learning Ben's very complicated system for strikers. And I know a lot of Dynamo fans are biting the bullet and holding their tongue because while some of you may not know, a lot of Dynamo fans did recognize that Sebastian Ferreira scored a game-winning goal for his club in Argentina. And let me see what club he actually plays for. He plays for a big club. He plays for Rosario Central. And while he's not the starter or anything, he did come on and score a pretty important game-winning goal. So, good for him. You know, I still stand by my idea that Sebastian Ferreira could have provided a lot more to this Dynamo team than what he was allowed to do. He hardly played in 2024. And after his little injury that he picked up in the first game of the season, we never really saw him again. Even after his hat-trick against DC United, Ben Olsen didn't even start him next game. So I hope Ben Olsen learns his lesson with that and rides the players that are hot, like I mentioned with Junior Urso and even Blake Gillingham. So the match starts, and overall, we control the game pretty well. We limited Seattle's chances, and I think a big reason as to why we even got away with the point was that Jordan Morris, their leading goal scorer of the season and also all-time franchise goal scorer as of recently, was injured. So he's a big threat that the Dynamo did not have to deal with, and the Dynamo only had to worry about containing Jesus Ferreira, who is just not that good and not anywhere near what a DP quality striker should be. And he was honestly horrible during this match, Jesus Ferreira. So we go into Seattle. We get a point. I think Femi Awodosu plays well. I think Bartlow was playing well until he got injured. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but he did have to get subbed out in the first half with a quad injury, it looked like. And those can be pretty harmful, especially for center backs. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Another player that got injured, I mentioned earlier, Jimmy Maurer. What's happening with our goalkeepers? We have more goalkeepers injured than wins on the season. Let that sink in. That's insane. That's an insane stat. 2 goalkeepers injured. So that gave Blake Gillingham his chance to start, and I think he took it and ran with it. He was phenomenal, man. He made some saves that I don't think I've seen Steve Clark make in his entire time here. So if he could keep on that trajectory, that'd be great. I just don't know what level, we're going to get from a keeper that went undrafted out of college and that we picked up to be our third string keeper. Third string keepers are not supposed to be spectacular. They're supposed to be guys that probably never see the pitch. So I would be surprised. I would like to know the amount of third string keepers that have even played for the Dynamo. Not a lot. That's a very low number. So I was really hoping the Dynamo would at least score a goal in this match. We didn't. The attack just looks bleh. It looks so bland. We didn't really have any great chances, in my personal opinion. I thought that Blake Gillingham did well to save Seattle's good chances, but I don't think that we really did much of anything on the attack. And that's something that is going to have to improve if we're going to have any hope for success. It's going to have to. So looking at Portland, let's do a predicted starting 11. I think that'll be fun. I will go with, obviously, Blake Gillingham in net, since he is our only rostered keeper as of right now. We're going to have to call in a guy from D2 to sit on the bench at least. Left back, give me Franco Escobar. 2 center backs. Ooh, this is a tough one. Because I want to say Sviatchenko still is not going to start. But then I can't say Steres will start at center back because whenever Stairs came in to replace Barlow like we thought, he actually slotted in on that left back role, and Escobar went to center back. And Escobar was phenomenal. Escobar was better than Barlow at center back. I think if we're ever in a position where that needs to happen again, I'm perfectly fine with Escobar going in at center back. He's ferocious, man. He is a mean guy. And that's what you need at center back. You need someone that's really aggressive, but smart too. And I think we get that with Franco Escobar. So I'll have Femi Awadosu at the left center back role, and then Griffin Dorsey at right back. Midfield, we're going to go Jack McGlynn, Archer, and Junior Urso. And I know what you're thinking. 3 defensive-minded midfielders. Yep, I'm going with it. Especially playing away against Portland. I think that's the best idea to go. I think we play conservative here. I think we do. And the starting 11, I think we're still going to see Sebastian Kowalczyk, even though he hasn't been fantastic. We're going to see Ezekiel Ponce, obviously, and Bassi. One of Bassi or Kowalczyk may not be in the starting 11 for much longer. Linger, a guy from the Czech League. I can't say anything that I know anything about the Czech League. Couldn't even name you a team in the Czech League. But Linger is our new DP center attacking midfielder. Yay! Let's all get excited for Linger. Yeah, we're not totally screwed at all. Guys, we're going to be fine. For what it's worth, I've heard very positive things of this guy. For those who just have never heard of him, I don't blame you. It's been pretty under the rock. You don't live under a rock. This has been under the rock. Hasn't really been talked about. There was a little teaser posted by the Dynamo today, so I assume that we'll get an official announcement tomorrow. I don't think he'll be ready against Portland, obviously, so I don't think we see him in that game. But he is a guy from the Czech League. I think he's 25, 26, and he's not even a starter for his respective team in the Czech League, which is maybe like the 15th best league in Europe. MLS is far and away better than Czech League, and I'm perfectly fine with saying that. He's a guy that couldn't even cut it at Feyenoord in the Netherlands, so I don't have a lot of hope for this guy. The only saving grace is maybe he can be bought down in the summer or next season, and he's not a permanent DP, but it's not looking great. I think Abu Fani, that midfielder from Ferencváros in the Hungarian league, yes. I think that guy would have been better than Linger. And we were rumored with him a few months ago to be our DP, and I remember being so frustrated about it, but I would take him in a heartbeat over Linger. I mean, you don't want a guy that's as your DP that failed in the Dutch league. The Dutch league is far and away better than MLS. Probably ever will be in the next 15 years, for sure. But it's not a good look to have a guy that couldn't cut it at Feyenoord. I mean, that's not a world-breaking team, right? I mean, we're coming from a team that had Hector Herrera, a guy that was starting for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League against Manchester United before we got him, to a guy that doesn't even start for his team in the Czech League. But I'm not going to knock it till I see it. I've seen some highlights. He looks okay. I mean, anyone can look good on YouTube highlights. If you put me out there, I can do something crazy to make you think I'm DP worthy. So be very cautious when you look at videos like that, because they're only putting the best out there. So we'll see what happens, I guess. I just hope that he improves our attack. That's all I can say. If he improves our attack, okay, we'll see. We'll see. I just want to fight for that last seed in the playoffs. I just want to fight for that 9th or 8th place. If we can get that after all this turnover we've had, that's a successful season to me. And that's not asking for much. That's not. To put things simply, playing against Portland in Portland, let's go predictions. 3-1 loss. We're going to have a third string keeper in there, guys. We're probably going to have a makeshift back line with Svichigo still out of the starting 11. It's going to be a 3-1 loss. It just will. Don't get your hopes up. do not get your hopes up. Well, guys, I got clinical tomorrow at 6 a.m. It's currently 10:05 p.m. It's past my bedtime. I'm sure it's past yours when you're listening. Remember, guys, stay hydrated, keep tabs, and I'll see y'all later. This has been Colin keeping tabs. If you stayed this long, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support. I'm going to try to get these videos and these podcasts out more regularly as soon as school's over and as soon as I'm graduated, which is in April. Then I'll have a much more regular schedule to be able to put more content out for keeping tabs. This is something I really love to do. I really love making content for you guys, and for however many people that enjoy it, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot, and hopefully Dynamo can go out there and get a win. Hopefully they can impress me. Hopefully they can change my mind. But for now, I'm going to go 3-1 loss. Comment down below, what's your prediction? What do you think? Who do you hope to see? Who do you hope to score? All those questions will be answered on Sunday. For some reason, we're on the Sunday spotlight again. I'm not mad about it. I love being in the spotlight. When we don't do bad, last time we were in the spotlight was against Miami. You know how that goes. You know how that went. 4-1. Hopefully that's not a repeat. It seems like the only results we can get this year are away results, so maybe that continues to be true. I guess I'd be fine with the draw, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I don't know, guys. I want to win. Let's just see a win. And that's going to cut it, guys. That's going to be it. Have a good night.